The night was quiet in a small neighborhood outside Atlanta. The wind moved slowly through the trees, and the only sound was the distant hum of cars on the highway. Inside a modest two-story house, Marcus Hill sat on his couch, cleaning his old rifle. He was a former Army sergeant, a man who lived with discipline and order. It was past midnight, and Marcus had just finished his late dinner. The news on the TV was talking about local break-ins and strange people pretending to be law officers. Marcus didn't pay much attention until he heard a loud knock on his door. Bang, bang, bang. The sound was sharp and powerful. Marcus froze. His hands stopped in the middle of polishing the metal. The knock came again, this time louder. "Open up." HOA inspection, a voice shouted from outside. Marcus frowned. HOA. At midnight? That made no sense.
Ow, the homeowners association never came this late.
And they surely didn't bang on doors like cops. He stood slowly, his training kicking in. Years in the military had taught him one rule: never open the door without confirming the threat. "Who's there?" Marcus called out, his voice calm but strong. "We're from the HOA security team. We got reports of unregistered firearms in this house," the voice said. Marcus's heart started to beat faster. Unregistered firearms? He knew that was a lie. All his weapons were clean, legal, and locked properly. He looked through the peephole. Outside stood 3 men in dark uniforms. They had fake badges on their chests and radios clipped to their belts. One even carried a clipboard. Something about their body language was off. They weren't standing like police officers. They were nervous, shifting side to side. Marcus didn't open the door. Instead, he said, "Show me your ID through the window." The man hesitated. "Sir, this is official HOA business. If you don't cooperate, we'll be forced to enter." Marcus's eyes narrowed. Forced to enter. That was it. He knew real HOA workers couldn't do that. He silently reached to his side and tapped a small button near the table, a security camera system he'd installed years ago. Then he grabbed his phone and called 911. While the operator answered, Marcus stayed low, moving like he was back on a mission. He shut off the lights, moved to the back hallway, and quietly loaded his sidearm. 911. "What's your emergency?" "This is Marcus Hill," he whispered. 3 men outside my home pretending to be HOA officers. Possible armed threat." The operator told him to stay calm, stay hidden, and that real police were on their way. Outside, the fake officers started knocking again, harder this time. One of them shouted, "You've got 5 seconds before we come in." Marcus's breathing slowed. His training took over. He moved through the shadows, setting up his camera feed to record every angle. The men outside didn't know they were being watched. One of them pulled a crowbar from his jacket. Marcus whispered to himself, "If they try to breach, we go to military protocol." He crouched near the hallway corner, gun in hand, his muscles tight. The seconds felt like hours, then crash. The front door splintered. The fake HOA team stormed in, flashlights cutting through the dark, but Marcus was ready. He spoke in a commanding voice, the same tone he used in combat. "Drop your weapons and get on the ground." The men froze. His voice was so firm, so confident, that for a moment, they believed he was law enforcement. When one of them tried to reach for something, Marcus fired a warning shot straight into the wall. The sound echoed like thunder. "Next one goes in the chest," Marcus shouted. Just then, flashing red and blue lights appeared outside. Real police cars surrounded the house. The fake officers looked at each other in panic. Marcus stayed where he was, gun-trained, heart steady. Within seconds, real officers rushed in and took the fake HOA men to the ground. Marcus lowered his gun, but didn't relax. He knew this wasn't over. Because in his mind, one question burned bright. Who sent them? The flashing red and blue lights painted the street like a scene from a crime movie. Marcus stood on his porch, hands still trembling slightly, watching as real police cuffed the 3 fake HOA officers. The neighbors had come out too, their faces full of fear and curiosity. One officer, Detective Rivera, walked up to Marcus. He was tall, serious, and spoke with a calm tone. "Sir, I'm Detective Rivera. You did the right thing calling 911. Can you tell me exactly what happened?" Marcus nodded, still alert. "They said they were HOA security. Tried to enter by force." Their badges looked fake. Their story didn't add up. Rivera took notes. You said they mentioned unregistered guns? Yes, Marcus said. That's what made me sure they were lying. HOA doesn't deal with firearms. Rivera nodded slowly. You're right. Something about this doesn't smell right. One of the fake officers shouted from the police car. We were just following orders. Rivera turned his head sharply. Orders from who? The man didn't answer, just looked down, sweat shining on his face under the patrol lights. Marcus crossed his arms. Detective, whoever sent them. They knew I was military. They wanted something specific. Rivera raised an eyebrow. You think this was targeted? I know it was, Marcus said firmly. No random guys talk about my guns unless they know what's inside my house. The detective sighed. Right, Mr. Hill. We'll take them in, check their identities, and run a background search. For now, you should stay somewhere safe. Marcus looked at his home, his safe space, now full of police tape and broken wood. No, he said. If they're coming for me, I'm not running. I'll find out why. Rivera gave him a long look, then said, Just don't play hero. Leave the investigation to us. But Marcus wasn't the type to wait around. The next morning, the neighborhood was quiet again, but the air felt heavy. The front door had been replaced with a temporary wooden board. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, laptop open, reviewing his security footage. He slowed the video frame by frame, then he noticed something. One of the fake HOA men had a small tattoo on his wrist. A black triangle with 3 dots. Marcus leaned closer. That wasn't random. He'd seen that symbol before back in Afghanistan. It was the sign of a private militia, one that had been disbanded years ago for illegal operations. He whispered, No way. He searched the web, cross-checking the image. The name appeared, Iron Viper Unit. They weren't ordinary criminals. They were former contractors who had done dirty work for money, smuggling, intimidation, even political jobs. Marcus's stomach turned. Why would ex-military men be after him? He opened his safe box. Inside were all his gun papers, his old Army IDs, and one small USB drive labeled Operation Sentinel. He hadn't looked at that drive in years. It held classified data from a mission he led overseas, a mission that had gone wrong, badly wrong. He remembered the deal. The data was supposed to be destroyed, but Marcus had kept a copy, just in case. His phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown number, he answered carefully. Hello? Cold, distorted voice said. You shouldn't have called the cops, Sergeant Hill. Marcus froze. Who is this? Demanded. You have something that doesn't belong to you, the voice said. Give us the drive, or next time it won't be fake HOA. The line went dead. Marcus sat still for a moment, every muscle tense. His hands clenched into fists. It wasn't about his guns. It was about the USB. He looked around his house, the cameras, the locks, the quiet streets. None of it felt safe anymore. Then his soldier instincts returned. Calm, focused, sharp. He spoke softly to himself. If they want a war, I'll give them one, but on my terms. He opened a metal case under his bed. Inside were his military tools, tactical gear, field maps, signal jammers, night vision goggles. He hadn't touched them in years, but now they looked like old friends waiting to return to duty. Marcus packed them neatly. Then he connected the USB to his laptop, opening the old encrypted files. The data inside revealed names, money transfers, and missions that were never meant to see daylight. And there, at the bottom, he found something that made his blood run cold. One of the listed operations was tied to a powerful U.S. senator. Marcus shut the laptop. Now I know why they came. Outside, a black SUV slowed near his house and then drove off. He knew they were watching, but this time he wouldn't hide. He would fight back. The night air felt heavy, thick with tension. Marcus sat in the dark corner of his living room, watching the street through his security feed. Every shadow looked alive. Every passing car made his pulse rise a little higher. He wasn't afraid. He was calculating. In the army, he'd learned that the best defense wasn't hiding, it was control. He knew his enemies were watching, waiting for him to make a mistake. But Marcus Hill didn't make mistakes. Not anymore. Earlier that day, he had driven to a local hardware store. To anyone else, it looked like he was fixing his damaged door. But Marcus was preparing for something else, something bigger now. Inside his house, he laid out everything on the table: cameras, motion sensors, fake trip alarms, and even an old military-grade smoke bomb. "All right," he whispered to himself. "You want a game? Let's play." He installed the devices all around the property. Every door, every corner, even the garden lights had hidden motion sensors. Anyone who came close would trigger an alert on his phone. Then, he checked the camera feeds again. The black SUV that had circled his street last night was back, parked at the corner. Engine off. Marcus zoomed the feed. He saw two silhouettes inside, motionless, waiting. He smirked. "They think I'll sleep easy after one warning." "Not tonight." Grabbed his phone and called Detective Rivera. "Detective, it's Hill. The guys are back." "Black SUV? Same pattern?" Rivera replied quickly. "We've been tracking them too. Stay inside. Don't engage." Marcus chuckled softly. "Copy that, Detective. But remember, I don't sit idle." 2 hours later, Marcus turned off the lights and stepped outside through the back door, wearing dark clothes and gloves. The night was silent, except for the sound of crickets. He moved low, like he was back on a night mission in hostile territory. His eyes scanned everything. Every sound mattered. He crept through the neighbor's yard. Coming around from behind the SUV, the two men inside were focused on his house. Talking quietly on the radio, Marcus moved closer, staying in the blind spots. He heard one of them say, "He's still inside. Command says move at dawn." Command. That word confirmed it. This wasn't random. This was organized. Marcus took a small device from his pocket, a GPS tracker. In one swift move, he crawled under the SUV and attached it to the rear bumper. Then, quietly, he disappeared back into the darkness. The next morning, Rivera called. "Hill, we found something on the men we arrested. False IDs, prepaid phones, no addresses." "These guys are professionals," Marcus replied. "I know. I planted a tracker on one of their vehicles last night. I can send you the signal." Rivera paused. "You did what?" Marcus said calmly. "They're planning something. You'll need proof." "This is it," the detective sighed. "You're lucky you're ex-military, Hill. Anyone else I'd call reckless?" "Sometimes reckless keeps you alive," Marcus replied. Later that evening, Marcus followed the GPS signal on his tablet. The SUV had stopped at an old warehouse outside town. He knew that place. It used to be an equipment depot during his army days. Now, it looked abandoned. He drove out slowly, parking his truck a block away. He moved through the tall grass, careful with each step. The air smelled of rust and oil. Through a broken window, he saw them, 5 men, all in black gear, gathered around a table. The same triangle with dots tattoo marked their wrists. On the table sat a photo, his photo with red ink circling his face. Marcus's jaw tightened. They were planning another hit. He took out his phone and started recording through the broken glass. Their voices were low, but clear. "Tonight we finish it," one said. "Command wants the drive and no witnesses." That was all Marcus needed. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed. He had stepped on a broken pipe. The men looked up instantly. "Who's there?" One shouted. Marcus ran, moving fast through the shadows. Bullets cracked through the air as he sprinted toward the fence. He dived behind a car, breath heavy. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and activated his car's smoke bomb remotely. A thick gray cloud spread across the lot. The men coughed and yelled, firing blindly. Marcus used the cover to vanish into the trees. By the time the smoke cleared, he was gone. But he'd left something behind, a tiny camera still recording from the broken window, sending every second straight to his cloud storage. Back home, Marcus watched the footage upload. He smiled faintly. "Got you." He sent the link to Detective Rivera. Minutes later, Rivera called back, his tone urgent. "Hill, that footage. One of those men is a federal contractor. You just stumbled into something big. Marcus stared at the screen. I told you, detective. They weren't random thugs, Rivera said quietly. Then you need to disappear for a while. They won't stop now. Marcus looked outside. The wind moved the curtains slightly, like a silent warning. He whispered, "Let them come. I'm ready." 2 days had passed since the warehouse encounter, but Marcus hadn't slept much. His mind worked like a machine. Sharp, controlled, never stopping. The footage he'd recorded from the hidden camera had blown the case wide open. One of the men in the video, a bald, cold-looking operative named Vance Keller, had once worked for a private defense firm linked to classified U.S. missions. Marcus sat in front of his laptop, rewatching the video. Every frame told a story. Weapons, tactical maps, encrypted laptops. They weren't small-time thugs. They were trained, funded, and organized. Detective Rivera had forwarded him a warning email from an untraceable address. Stop digging. Operation Sentinel was buried for a reason. His instincts screamed that he was being watched again. He turned off the lights, unplugged his Wi-Fi, and whispered to himself, "You buried it wrong." That evening, Marcus drove out of the city under a new name, using one of his old military IDs. His destination, a small cabin in the mountains, once used for survival training. The road was empty, surrounded by trees and silence. He wasn't running. He was repositioning like in combat. The high ground always wins. Inside the cabin, dust covered everything. He cleaned it up fast, then set up his gear. Laptop, communication blockers, and a small drone. He opened the encrypted USB again. The files showed dozens of hidden transactions between a defense firm, Iron Viper Security, and a senator named William Grant. Grant had once visited Marcus's unit overseas, shaking hands and promising medals. But now it seemed the senator had used Marcus's mission for his own dirty deals, selling weapons through fake operations. Marcus leaned back, connecting the dots. "That's why they want the drive," he muttered. "It proves everything." At midnight, his drone picked up movement to heat signatures approaching the cabin from the woods. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "They found me." He grabbed his headset and whispered, "Time for ghost protocol." Shut off the generator, plunging the cabin into darkness. The only light came from the moon slicing through the windows. Marcus moved silently, setting traps, tripwires near the back door, a pressure sensor under the window, and an old smoke canister at the entrance. The intruders moved closer. Their flashlights cut through the dark. "Target confirmed," one said softly through a radio. "Moving in." Marcus waited in the shadows. His breathing slowed. He counted each step they took. Step, 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 then click. A tripwire snapped. The smoke bomb exploded, filling the cabin with thick gray fog. Marcus moved fast, rolling behind a wall and striking one attacker with the butt of his rifle. The man fell instantly. The second intruder fired blindly, shouting, "Hill!" "Drop it." Marcus didn't answer. He threw a flash grenade instead. The blast of light stunned the attacker, who stumbled backward. Marcus tackled him to the floor, disarming him in seconds. He pressed the man's face against the wooden floor. "Who sent you?" Marcus demanded. The man coughed. You don't understand. This isn't just about the drive. It's bigger." "Then explain," Marcus growled. "They're cleaning house," the man said weakly. "Anyone linked to Sentinel is marked. You, me, everyone." Before Marcus could ask more, the man's radio crackled. A voice came through. "Unit Bravo. Status. If you're compromised, execute fallback." Marcus looked down a small blinking light on the man's vest. A tracker. His eyes widened. "They know where you are." The man's voice trembled. "Not just me. You too." Marcus dove through the window just as a massive boom shook the cabin. The explosion threw debris high into the night sky. He landed hard on the grass, his ears ringing, smoke rising behind him. For a moment, everything went silent, just the crackle of burning wood and the echo of his heartbeat. He crawled to safety, bruised but alive. From a distance, he watched the flames consume the cabin. Inside the fire, his laptop melted, but not before it had auto-uploaded the entire Iron Viper file to an encrypted cloud. Marcus whispered, "You can burn the cabin, but not the truth." By morning, Marcus was miles away, driving an old truck down a forest road. His clothes were torn, his face covered in soot, but his eyes burned with focus. He switched on a burner phone and called Detective Rivera. "It's me, Marcus," said. "They found me. They destroyed everything." Rivera's voice came through, tired and nervous. "Hill, listen, you need to disappear. This is no longer local law enforcement business. Federal agents are involved now, and they're not on our side." Marcus looked at the rising sun and whispered, "Then it's time I go underground." He hung up and crushed the phone because the war wasn't over. It had just begun. 3 days had passed since the explosion. The world thought Marcus Hill was dead, and that was exactly what he wanted. The Iron Viper network had gone silent. No calls, no messages, no SUV on the corner. They thought they'd buried him in the ashes of that mountain cabin. But Marcus wasn't a ghost. He was the storm they created. He spent the next 2 days traveling across back roads, using cash and avoiding cameras. His truck was old, rusty and forgettable, perfect for staying invisible. At an old gas station, he saw his own face flash on a muted TV screen. Former Army sergeant presumed dead in cabin explosion, under federal investigation. Marcus watched the report without blinking. "Good," he whispered. "Keep thinking that." He walked out quietly, disappearing into the shadows. That night he reached an abandoned train depot outside the city. It was his new base. Hidden, quiet, full of cover. He unpacked his gear, connected a new laptop, and started tracing digital footprints from the uploaded cloud files. The Iron Viper transactions pointed to a private server in Washington. DCA was encrypted under a fake charity name, Freedom Forward Foundation. Marcus smirked. "That's clever, Senator Grant." But what caught his eye was a list of scheduled meetings labeled Project Reclaim. One of the attendees was Vance Keller, the same bald operative from the warehouse. Another name made Marcus's stomach twist: Eli Parker. That name hit hard. Parker had been his commanding officer during Operation Sentinel. The man who ordered Marcus to destroy all evidence. The man Marcus once trusted? He whispered, "So you were part of it too." Marcus needed help. One man couldn't take down a senator and a secret militia, so he called the only person he could trust, Lena Morris, a former military intelligence analyst. He hadn't spoken to her in years, but she answered the encrypted call immediately. "Marcus Hill." "I saw the news." They said, "You're dead." "Not yet," he said flatly. "I need intel." "You still have access to DC back channels?" Lena sighed. "That depends on why you're asking." "Iron Viper is back. They're tied to Senator Grant and Parker. They killed my unit overseas and tried again here." A silence. Then Lena said quietly, "Meet me in Denver. Safe house on 8th Street, midnight." The meeting spot was an old printing warehouse covered in graffiti. Marcus arrived early, checking exits. Scanning for movement, Lena entered 20 minutes later. Long coat, baseball cap, and eyes sharp as ever. "You look like you've been through a war," she said. "I have," Marcus replied. She opened her laptop. "You're right about the senator. Freedom Forward is a shell organization. Millions of dollars moving through offshore accounts. The funds come from weapons contracts, and Iron Viper is the delivery arm." Marcus leaned closer. "And Parker?" Lena hesitated. "He's the bridge between them. He runs logistics for Grant. He's been promoting a new policy to restructure Homeland Defense. It's just a cover there, creating a private army." Marcus clenched his jaw. "And they want the Sentinel files to erase their tracks." Lena nodded. "Exactly." Marcus's voice hardened. "Then we end it before it starts." That night, they set up a plan. Marcus would infiltrate the next Project Reclaim meeting, disguised as one of Iron Viper's security contractors. Lena would monitor from a distance, feeding him live intel, to make it real. They forged an identity: Caleb Moore, ex-mercenary. Lena smiled faintly. "You're walking straight into a lion's den." Marcus checked his weapon, his tone calm. Good. Lions don't hunt shadows. The next evening, he walked into a private hangar near the city airport. Black SUVs surrounded the area. Inside, men in suits and tactical uniforms stood around a table with large maps. At the head stood Senator Grant and Eli Parker. Marcus lowered his cap, face half hidden. He walked closer, pretending to check the perimeter. Grant spoke in a deep voice. "Gentlemen, Operation Reclaim begins in 72 hours. Once we secure the data, we erase every trace of Sentinel," Parker added, "and anyone connected to it." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Then Parker's phone buzzed. He looked down, then slowly lifted his eyes toward Marcus. "Wait," he said softly. "Where have I seen you before?" The room grew tense. Marcus's hand moved slightly toward his belt. "Ready." Grant narrowed his eyes. "Name and unit." "Soldier." Marcus took a slow breath. His voice was cold as steel. "Name's Caleb Moore," he said. "And your operation ends tonight." He tossed a flashbang to the floor. Boom. Chaos exploded. Bullets tore through the hangar as Marcus dived for cover, rolling behind a jeep. Smoke filled the air. Men shouted. Confused, Marcus grabbed the senator's briefcase from the table and sprinted toward the exit. Grant yelled, "Stop him!" But it was too late. Marcus was gone, disappearing once again into the darkness. The wind howled across the empty highway as Marcus drove through the night. The senator's black briefcase on the seat beside him. Inside were documents, codes, and video files, enough proof to destroy everyone behind Operation Reclaim. His chest rose and fell slowly. Every breath carried a purpose now. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about justice. He parked near an abandoned motel on the outskirts of the city and opened the briefcase. Inside, he found something unexpected. A keycard, a burner phone, and a sealed envelope marked "Eyes Only Command." He tore it open. Inside was a message in plain text. "If you are reading this, the operation is compromised. Eliminate Hill. Burn everything." Marcus smiled faintly. Too late for that.
Hey.
Opened the phone and found a single message thread between Senator Grant and Eli Parker. The latest text read, "Secure the files. Meet at Redstone facility. 400 hours. Redstone, a secret data center hidden inside an old airfield. Marcus knew it from his service days. That was where it would end. At 3:30 a.m., Marcus parked half a mile from the airfield and moved silently through the fog. The moonlight glowed faintly on the metal fences ahead. In the distance, searchlights swept the grounds. He climbed over the fence, rolled onto the dirt, and moved through the shadows toward the hangar. His earpiece crackled. Lena's voice came through. "Marcus, I hacked into their comms. Parker and the senator are both inside. But be careful. They have drones." "Copy that," Marcus whispered. "Stay on the channel." He slid through a side entrance, gun raised. The air smelled of oil and electricity. Inside, rows of servers blinked like a digital city. At the center of the room stood Eli Parker. Older now, his uniform crisp, his face unreadable. Beside him, Senator Grant watched screens displaying maps and transactions. "Did you really think you could hide forever, Hill?" Parker said without turning. Marcus stepped forward. "You taught me everything, Colonel, including how to take ghosts down." Grant turned sharply. "He's alive?" Marcus's voice was calm. "Alive enough to end you both."
Suddenly,
alarms blared. The red lights flashed as security teams rushed in. Marcus took cover behind a steel column, firing precise shots that dropped 2 guards instantly. Parker shouted, "Don't let him reach the servers." Marcus threw a smoke grenade, filling the room with gray fog. He ran toward the main console. Inserting a flash drive, Lena had prepared an auto-upload virus. "Upload at 60%, Lena said through the earpiece. "Keep him busy." Marcus reloaded quickly. Bullets pinged off the walls around him. He moved like a shadow, fast, quiet, unstoppable. Then Parker appeared through the smoke, holding a rifle. He never knew when to follow orders. he shouted. Marcus aimed back. Not when the orders kill innocent people. They fired at the same time. Parker's bullet grazed Marcus's arm. Marcus's shot hit Parker's leg, sending him crashing to the floor. Grant tried to run toward the exit, clutching his phone. Marcus fired a warning shot that shattered the doorframe. "You're not going anywhere, Senator." Grant raised his hands. "You don't understand. I did what I had to do for this country." Marcus's voice was cold. "You sold it. Upload complete," Lena said. "The files are live. News outlets are getting them right now." Grant's face drained of color. "You fool. You'll bring down half the government." Marcus lowered his weapon. "Then maybe it's time." Outside, the wail of approaching sirens filled the air. Federal agents surrounded the building, guns drawn. Lena's voice came again, soft but urgent. "Marcus, get out. They'll take you down too." Marcus looked at Parker, bleeding but alive, and at Grant trembling near the console. "Not yet." Picked up the senator's phone and pressed send on the open text message to the Iron Viper command channel. It read, "Operation Reclaim terminated. Stand down." Within minutes, the private network collapsed, all communication dead. Marcus dropped the phone, raised his hands and stepped outside into the flashing lights. The agents shouted. On the ground, he obeyed, calm, steady. As they cuffed him, Detective Rivera appeared, walking through the chaos. "Hill, what have you done?" Marcus looked up with tired eyes. "Ended a war you didn't even know existed." 2 weeks later, news broke across every channel. Senator William Grant, arrested in national corruption scandal. Private militia, Iron Viper, exposed. Whistleblower remains unidentified, in a small cabin miles away. Lena watched the headlines and smiled faintly. She turned to the camera feed, showing a quiet farm road, and Marcus Hill walking toward the woods. Alive and free. He paused at the edge of the trees. The morning sun breaking through the mist. He looked back once and said softly, "Some battles end with silence. And that's enough." Then he disappeared into the forest. The soldier who became a shadow, and the shadow who brought justice.